What's up, Nerdyverse? I'm Daddy Louie, and in this video we are taking a look at a game called SRG Supershow, so stick around. Before we get started, if you are new to our channel and you want to see more content like this, start now by hitting the subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss any future videos. Welcome to the legendary Fighting Federation in this SRG Supershow game, which is a wrestling card game slash dice game, kind of a little bit. It's mostly a card game. I was recently turned on to this game by some people in my Facebook group after I let some people know that I was a fan of wrestling. They said, "Hey, have you heard of this game? Check it out." So it's been around for a little while, 2017, I think, and it is essentially a 1v1, although I think that there is some multiplayer rules. There are also tag teams and triple teams, or trios as they're called in this game. But you and your opponent both have a 30-card deck, and you both have a competitor. The game is mostly made of made-up competitors, although there are some real-life competitors or indie competitors. Some are lesser known, some are making it big now. AJ Styles, who is in the WWE, he is in this game, although he is very difficult to get because he's out of print now. But Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page from AEW, the Young Bucks, and just recently announced is our man RVD, right? Rob Van Dam is also coming to the game. So there are some big names, but again, it's mostly made up of created for this universe competitors or wrestlers. The cool thing is you can actually go on their website and you can actually make your own competitor. So all these competitors that you see in this game, most of them have been made by community members. So they're bringing their personas into the game, which is really cool, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But is the game itself good? Well, if you'll join me on the table, we will check it out. Alright, so here we have set up our LFF mat, our legendary Fighting Federation, and we have two competitors that we're going to be looking at. This is from a two-player starter. It comes in a box like this. There are a few of these in circulation out there with different competitors. Some of them come with extra competitors, and some of them do not. But they also come with the dice that you need, two 30-card decks, two competitors, and a crowd meter, all things that we need in order to play the game. Real quickly, I do want to mention that this is not a traditional trading card game or collectible card game, in that you don't go to the store, buy a $2, $3, $4 pack of cards, open it up, and see what you get. If you want a certain competitor, you go to the website and you pay for that competitor. It comes with most of them come with their wrestler card and 3 finishing moves, which are numbered 28, 29, and 30, and I'll explain that a little more later as well. There are some mystery boxes. There's one that's $40 and one that's $60 currently, that give you a bunch of random things. If getting random stuff is what you're looking for, it allows you to get things that are out of print, out of stock on the website, and things like that, because not everything is in stock all the time. Some things are completely out of print because the company doesn't have the license to the wrestler or anything anymore, because maybe they made it big and went on other places. So that's just a brief overview of like how you get the cards. And then, like I said, they also have these two-player starters, which is what we're using here. First, let's look at the competitors. So the competitors have some art and the name of the wrestler there. This is the Rising Sun. And then he has 6 stats that are color coordinated to go along with this 6-sided die. and then each stat has a number next to it. These are important for a couple of different things that you'll see as we play. The main one being when you, or the two main ones I guess you should say, is determining who goes on what turn, and also when deciding what the pinfall number is going to be once you actually pin your opponent. At the bottom down here is his gimmick. So each wrestler has a, or competitor has a gimmick down here, and that's kind of what adds the flavor and what you're going to kind of be looking at when you're customizing your deck and stuff like that. So the Rising Sun here, his gimmick is whenever you roll technique, which is this symbol here, you get to draw a card. So anytime that you roll the dice and you roll a technique, he gets to draw an extra card. The big shot over here, again, some art, the name of the competitor, some stats, and then a gimmick. His gimmick is once per roll, if your opponent rolls submission, which is this purple / pinkish color here, you may force them to reroll. So that works out really well in this matchup here, because the Rising Sun's submission is his highest stat, which is 10. So he's wanting to roll submission, while the big shot is going to make him re-roll it if he does. So at the start of the game, each player draws 3 cards into their hand, and then you proceed to roll off to see whose turn it is. So to do that, you would each roll the dice. So Big Shot's going to roll, he rolls agility, and then the Rising Sun here, he rolls power. So the Rising Sun's power is a 5, and the Big Shot's agility is a 5. That would be a bump. And in a case of a bump or a tie, each player gets to draw an extra card. And then we roll again. So the Big Shot goes, he rolled a technique, which is a 6, and the Rising Sun rolls a grapple, which is 6. We bump again. Then we keep doing this. And this has never happened to me before, but so we got a strike. That's his 10 on the Big Shot, and we have technique, which is 9. So the Big Shot finally gets to go. So in this game, there are 3 different kinds of cards: lead, follow-up, and a finish. LFF, Legendary Fighting Federation, so it's easy to remember. The first thing, in order for you to pin your opponent, you need to perform a finish move. In order to perform a finish, you must have a follow-up. In order to have a follow-up, you must play a lead. So you're always going to start by playing a lead. There are 3 different sub types of cards, or subclass of cards, I guess, which is submission, strike, and grapple. I don't have any strikes in here, but the Big Shot here, he's going to want to play a lead first. So he has 3 to choose from. I'm just going to pick one at random here because for the sake of time. So he plays Head Crush, which says your opponent buries 1 card in their hand, or your next turn roll is 1. So bury means to take and put at the bottom of the deck. So the Rising Sun has to bury a card, or he's going to, the Big Shot's going to get a +1. So I'll go ahead and I have, let's see, I have a bunch of lead cards. So I'm just going to go ahead and take a lead card here, and I'm going to place it, I'm going to bury it at the bottom of my deck. And that's the Big Shot's turn, and now we're going to roll off again. So the Big Shot would roll, he rolls a power, which is 9, good roll for the Big Shot, and a power for the Rising Sun, which is a 6. So the Big Shot gets to go again. So he's looking at his hand, and he's looking for a follow-up now. So he plays a follow-up, Chokehold. If you have another follow-up in play, draw 2 cards. Now I don't, so I don't get to draw those 2 cards. Now, the Rising Sun, after every time that the Big Shot here gets to play a card, I do have an opportunity to stop it. There are some cards that have a stop sign on them, and like this one here says, stop any finish grapple. Well, this isn't a finish, and it's not a grapple, so I can't stop that from happening. And I don't have any others, so literally there's nothing I can do. I'm just getting beat down. So then we would roll again. So the big shot rolls. He got another power, and the Rising Sun got a submission. Now remember, the big shot makes him re-roll his submissions. So he does that, and he got a power, so the big shot gets to go again. Totally didn't plan this, by the way. So he's going to play his finishing move, and his finishing move is a submission, and it is your opponent gets 1 breakout roll this turn. That's an amazing, you'd normally get 3 breakout rolls. There's nothing I can do to stop that, because the only stop I have is to stop a finish grapple, and this is a finish submission. So now we would go into the breakout roll. So the big shot here, he gets to roll his dice 1 time, and he's looking for the highest number he can get. So he really wants that power or that strike, and he got submission, which is 7. So 7 is the number to beat. The Rising Sun has, in a normal situation, the Rising Sun would have 3 rolls to try and break out of this submission of 7. However, because of this Circle of the Sun, he only gets 1 breakout roll. So if he doesn't roll a 7 or higher, then the game is over and the big shot wins his pin. So we're going to roll here. He got a strike, which is 8. He kicks out, and he is still in the match. That's amazing for him. So in the event of a kick out, what would happen is all of the cards that are currently in play for the big shot would be discarded, and the crowd meter would increase. So now we go up to level 1, which is all finish rolls are +1. So now if he would have rolled that submission again, it's worth 8 instead of 7, because the crowd's really into it, and the Rising Sun has a tougher chance of kicking out. But it also goes to the big shot as well. So if the Rising Sun pins the big shot first, or next I should say, he is going to get a +1 on that too. And that's really the core mechanics of how you play. There is a couple of little things that I missed, which I'll go over now. Alright, so one thing that I forgot to mention is drawing cards. When you are rolling off to see who's going to play a card, whoever wins that roll-off gets to draw a card. So that's how you refill cards into your hand, aside from bumping, which is tying during the roll-off. Also on your turn, if you don't want to play a card, you don't have to. The other option that you have is to bury a card, which is to take a card from your discard pile and put it on the bottom of your deck, if you don't want to play a card when you win a roll-off. There is also such thing as a mulligan. So if on your first turn of the game to play a card, if you don't have a lead card in your hand, which you have to play in order to play anything else, you can show your opponent, shuffle your deck, and then redraw the same number of cards. Actually, you don't shuffle your deck. You can mulligan, you show your opponent your hand, and then you place your hand on the bottom of your deck and draw the same number of cards. The max hand size is 10, although there's some cards that change that a little bit. And there is countouts. So if at any point in time you have no cards in your hand and no cards in your deck, you automatically lose the match by countout. And that's how you play the game. Now let's quickly talk about deck construction and some other things that change stuff up, I guess. Deck construction is extremely straightforward. Your deck can have, or must have, 30 cards, no more, no less. And all of the cards in the game are numbered. So at the bottom of the card, you see a number. It is numbered 1 through 30. And if you want to replace, let's say I just want to take this starter deck that I have here and use this as the basis of my new deck. Let's say I want to, I don't want this card Punch, instead I want something else. The card that I replace with this card must also be a number 1. So I can't take, you know, a number 12, for example, and put it in the number 1 spot. I must have a number 1, I must have a number 2, and so on through to number 30. Now, the last 3 numbers of the deck, 28, 29, and 30, are reserved for the finishing moves. Most competitors have their own finishing moves, and those finishing moves are annotated by their symbol being in the left-hand side of the screen. So here you see, right here we've got the Big Shot logo. This means that it's the Big Shot's number 28 finishing move. Now I can replace this number 28 with another number 28 for the Big Shot deck. However, it can't be a number 28 that has another competitor's symbol. There are blank finishing moves that you can use to more generic stuff with those wrestlers. And that's really how deck construction works. There are also spectacles and entrance cards, but that's a little more advanced. I'm not going to really get into that too much. There are also skill requirement cards, which are cards that have one of these skill icons in the corner. Those are limited to 2 per deck, and they're usually pretty powerful, so that's why there's a limitation to it. Now, the different styles of crowd meters really add flavor and different things to the game itself. So here we have just another regular generic crowd meter, but then we've got stuff like, you know, main event. So you still get that +1 to breakout rolls, but this is done in the beginning rather than on level 1. So you got +1 to finish rolls, right, in the normal. Here you got +1 to breakout rolls. So this is going to go to the opponent that's getting pinned. And then also, after a breakout, each player shuffles a card from their discard into their deck. And the rules kind of change up with this main event. Then you've also got stuff like no DQ, tables, let's see what else I got, submission, and there's plenty more that you can grab on the website. And some even come with a mat. I got this mat from SRG, but there are other mats as well that have different crowd meters included in them. And there's even some 2-player starters, like the no DQ, that came in a 2-player starter that you can get as well. I think you guys probably already know what my verdict of the game is going to be, given the fact that I'm a wrestling fan. And when I found out about it, I reached out to them because it was something that I wanted to cover. It has some of my favorite wrestlers in it, Rob Van Dam coming to the game, but I'm a huge AEW fan right now. You can see my shirt. I got an Elite shirt on right now. So it's got the Elite, it's got Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page, Shawn Spears, but more importantly, it's got some really cool original characters made by the community, which is super awesome. I want to shout out the community. I think that's really what makes this game as great as it is and as great as it can be, is the continued support of the community. I reached out to the headwigs at SRG, told them I wanted to make the video. They sent me a couple things, which I totally appreciate. I got the mat and a couple of event cards and a couple of competitors. But when the community found out that I was new to the game, that I wanted to build my own community, they reached out and they sent me stacks of cards. And I mean, like, stacks of cards for nothing. Like, they just did that because that's the type of community that they are. They have weekly events, they have daily events, they have so much cool stuff, it's not even funny. They have title belts, there's stories intertwined. If you go on their Facebook group, you can see these characters come to life. They shoot their own promo videos and things like that. I could just go on and on about how neat it is. If you are or have ever been a wrestling fan, no brainer, you should be playing this game. If you enjoy games that aren't complicated, but still have an immense amount of strategy in them, this is a game for you. If you enjoy deck builders or CCGs, but you don't want like an overly complicated deck building system, this is the game for you. Just lots of personality, lots of character. I think you guys are going to love this game, and I highly recommend you check it out. I will leave links to everything that I can think of in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Really helps us out a lot. Make sure that you share it with your family, friends, and your nerdy communities. If you have any games, any suggestions you would like to see us cover here on the channel, let us know down in the comment section down below. And I do read those, and I do enjoy interacting with you guys. If you have any videos you want featured on our page, if you would like to collaborate with us, you can do that by hitting us up on one of our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Circle of Nerds. Also, don't forget that we have a podcast that comes out on Tuesday. Season 5 is starting very soon. It's called The Cosmic Disaster Show. You can find that right here on YouTube or anywhere that you enjoy listening to podcasts. And for an extra bit of love and affection to us here at the Circle of Nerds, please consider checking us out over on Patreon at patreon.com/circleofnerds. Anyway, guys, that's all from me. I will see you in the next video.